Opening bell just a few minutes ago. Stocks are down across the board here. Let me get the numbers for you. After Liberation Day yesterday, as it's being dubbed. And, of course, my phone is not working. All right, there we go. Dow's off 1,000 points, 1,100 at the opening bell. The NASDAQ is off 700. The S&P is off 177. So on a percentage basis, that's what matters. Dow is off 2.5 percentage points. NASDAQ's off 4. S&P is off 3% to open up trading today. So something to keep an eye on as we go forward here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. At 8:35, there was this story that's going viral. And I don't have any sympathy for a multitude of reasons I'll share with you here. So here's the story. I'm reading this from CNBC. Aubrey Bertram was starting to imagine her life without student debt, writes CNBC. Bertram, a staff attorney at an environmental conservation organization in Montana, had just around 2.5 years left on payments before her $247,000 federal student loan balance would be excused under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. But for many months, she's been frozen on her timeline to that relief, saying that she's not getting credit. You know, by that she means if you work X amount of years and months, you will get some or potentially all of your student loans paid off. And she says that for many months now, not just like 2 months of Donald Trump, but for many months now, she has not been getting credit towards her student debt repayment plan. So they go on the right here that she took out her loans in law school, knowing that she'd work in public service and then pursue this public service loan forgiveness program. Well, that's mistake number one. If you're going to go to law school to then go work for a nonprofit, you don't need to go to the law school that puts you $250,000 in debt. I understand no law school is cheap, but there are plenty of law schools that do not cost you over $80,000 a year. Especially when you're like, I want to work in the nonprofit sector of law. That is possible. And then I'm also going to rely on the government to pay it back because the government's so good at that, right? The government's so reliable. Heck, I don't know if Social Security is going to be there when I retire in 30 years. Never mind putting myself into $250,000 in debt when I want to work for a nonprofit conservation group and then being like, don't worry, government's going to take care of me. Man, I'll tell you what. These pieces of papers that they give you for these big fancy degrees, they apparently don't come with a lot of common sense. That's one of the obvious conclusions to come to here. So they write about Bertram, and they say that she took out her loans knowing that she'd want to work in public service. And they write here that millions of other student loan holders are in the same frustrating limbo right now. After Republican-led legal challenges blocked the Biden administration's new repayment plan last summer, borrowers who are enrolled in the program, like Audrey Bertram, have found themselves stuck. Many of those borrowers remain in a forbearance that doesn't bring them closer to debt forgiveness, while the Trump administration recently revised other student loan repayment plans to no longer conclude in debt cancellation. Good. They shouldn't. The government does not need to be in the business of paying back student loans and paying off these loans that these colleges are charging an arm and a leg for. This is supply and demand. This is common sense. This is these colleges getting away with murder. That's what they're doing. They're giving these young people degrees, whether it's an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree. These things are oftentimes not going to pay for themselves, but they don't care. The colleges get theirs. You're stuck with the loans. You then go to the government and say, please help me, because they programmed you properly to be a good lefty. And then you get stuck holding the bag. And then you go back to your preferred side of the political aisle and say, please help me. I will vote for you. So they're just all they're doing is creating voters under this guise and this premise of they're the ones who are going to help you pay back these loans that we overcharged you for. That's the name of the game. It's part of what these colleges are doing. And this article got picked up all over the country. I mean, I saw it on CNBC, but it was picked up by NBC Chicago and all these different local media outlets as well around the country. So then I also looked this up. I was like, all right, what is this group that this lady works for? wildmontana.org. It says they work to bring people and communities together around policies, proposals, and legislation to protect wild public lands, mostly in Montana. That's admirable. I like that. I like public lands. I've never been to Montana. Yellowstone's a good TV show. Looks beautiful, although I think it's filmed in Utah, if I have my information right on that. Either way, beautiful part of the country. Looks great. I don't want to see it, get built up with condos and, airports and resorts and all these different things. I'm all about protecting what's there. But and I know that you go into conservation law, okay, it's not like being the jungle law guy. All right, you're not going to be swinging around through made-up forests with monkeys on TV, printing money left and right over every fender bender that happens in this town. It's going to, not pay like that. Sad as that is, that's just the reality of the situation. I actually wish these attorneys made a little more and, the hucksters and grifters made a little less. But such is life right now. It is what it is. And then I look at the wildmontana.org website, and I see that they write here, they're working on confronting climate change. So once again, it's clearly a politically motivated, at least in part, operation. She has chosen to work for this operation. She wanted to do this, and she came out of law school with $250,000 in debt with the plan that the government would eventually pay it off. That is the definition of a fool's errand. You can't possibly believe that the government's going to come through for you here.
You still poor, broke, busted, and disgusted.
That's true. And unfortunately, some people have to learn that one the hard way. 913-408-7957. And this actually ties back to the reset that the economy needs at large. Donald Trump's playing the tariff game. He wants to see more businesses do their business here in the United States. He wants to see, in part, more manufacturing, more blue-collar jobs come back to the United States and really reset the economic landscape in this country that right now is frankly oversaturated with college graduates who don't really have any discernible skills to speak of, but they have this piece of paper and this degree and bring it back to Main Street a little bit. And it's a great idea. The problem is it doesn't happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I mean, we've got an entire generation that has a ton of student loan debt, no real way to pay it off, right? And doesn't really know what to do with themselves. Now, they can, remake themselves, go to a trade school for a year. They can do that. But how many people are actually going to do it? Not a lot. Not a lot at all. 913-408-7957. That's the text line and also the studio line on KCMO Talk Radio. Let's go to Shawnee. That's where Leonard is on a Thursday morning. What's up, Leonard? Good morning.
Good morning. Pete, congratulations going on your 8th year. Right out of the gate when you showed up here in Kansas City, you were on your game. The script wrote in itself. You had Don from Blue Springs, Rhonda in St. Joe, and they would call, and you were so quick-witted and everything. It was so great setting the stage there. And 8 years, and then I can't help to think that with everything, with Kevin Kiesman and everything, we get the joys of having Kevin Kiesman here and everything. But right out of the gate, you were on your game.
Well, don't forget about Leonard and Shawnee either out of the gates. But no, listen, that's very nice of you, Leonard. I do appreciate that, buddy. And, the callers certainly help make the show. And we appreciate you and all of them. And Kiesman has been amazing since he got here on KCMO. The guy is such a team player. And, he helps motivate me. I think he makes me better. And he's just been fantastic, really fantastic to have here and work with. He's just a pro's pro.
Oh, yeah. And, I can't, in an aerial view, the circuitous route you took to get here, you were in sports, of course. I know you do a little bit of that, but and then Keats was too. And then you're both into the politics and everything like that. And so I think that was God-breathed, and we all appreciate it. We are better, and we get more enjoyment because of you two coming together and everything that you've done. So we appreciate you.
Well, that's very nice of you, Leonard. Thank you, buddy. I do appreciate that. I mean, I think about it all the time, right? I told the story last hour as we start year 8 of the show today. We found out on my second day here in 2018 that we were pregnant. Well, I wasn't pregnant. Some people may think I can get pregnant, but no, I can't. I know it's going to be news to some of you out there, but
Talk about a bombshell.
I can't get pregnant. We found out that Kate was pregnant with our oldest, Claire. If that had happened 2 months prior, when I was in the process of potentially coming out here to Kansas City, would we have ended up out here? I don't know. At the time, I was doing stuff at Fox News and CBS and thinking, it's time to kind of move on, and you don't want to be the fourth outfielder forever, the fill-in guy forever at Fox. You got to kind of figure out what your next step is going to be. But if you find out you're pregnant and you've got some family in the area, would you be like, I just can't do the move right now? You just don't know. To Leonard's point, what God ultimately does have planned for you. And I am thankful to him every day for how this has certainly worked out here professionally and personally, with 3 beautiful, healthy daughters being born here over the last 7 years now. So all good stuff, and very nice to him as well. 913-408-7957. The text line, Pete, you and Kevin need to do an after-hours weekly podcast. See, you guys, I mean, I love it. I really appreciate the sentiment here. But it's like when people are calling up Kevin saying, hey, have Kevin, fill in for Pete when he's gone. Listen, Kevin's got a great thing going right now. Kevin's got the best deal this side of Rachel Maddow. She does 1 show a week. Kevin's doing an hour a day. Kevin, I've been wanting Kevin to be on KCMO for years. But listen, he's at the point in his life when he can do his podcast and he can do this show and he can call it a day. All right? So I am grateful Kevin is here every single day. I don't necessarily want to be putting more work on his plate.
And we get the crossover on Fridays, right?
That's right. Every Friday, we wrap up this show at 9:45 with myself and Kevin. So that's kind of our weekly podcast. And then we do podcast that as well on Apple and Spotify.
That's true.
So that segment does get podcasted. So that's the best I can do for you right now. All right? It's the best I got. 913-408-7957. Oh, man. And don't forget, he's got those Dave Ramsey tickets at 10:45 in his show on KCMO Talk Radio.